Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake regular customers as employees. And in today's episode, guys, OP's girlfriend is attacked by a psycho dude, and he gets taught a lesson. Guys, I hope you enjoy the tales today, and be sure to subscribe for future stories. This predates my working days and sits somewhere in the 90s. Most of the dialogue I'm putting here is more of what kind of happened, rather than any real memory of actual words being said. Anyways, I was literally pre-job young. I think 15 or 16 years old. And being a bookworm, gift cards to my local Barnes & Nobles was like diamonds before a dragon. On this day, I was in the store looking to spend a $100 gift card that I got for Christmas. There was pretty much, I thought, no way to be mistaken for an employee. I had no uniform on, no name tag, and a fanny pack around my waist. My baby face also meant that I probably looked around 12 years old, and I was carrying a basket of books I was planning to purchase. I had amassed a weighty collection to satisfy my bookworm heart, when another customer comes up to me. Now, while this predates the Karen phenomenon by quite a bit, I shall still refer to her as a Karen. So Karen comes up to me and says, "Hey, can you tell me where to find this book?" To which I respond, I can't. I'm not an employee. You can ask them at the information desk though. I then point to the info desk, which is a whole 15 feet away. And Karen says, "I don't want to walk that far. You just look like you know where this book is. Just tell me where it is." Again, I respond, "Lady, I don't work here." That's when Karen says, "I didn't ask for excuses. I said to tell me where the book is." Congratulations, we've all left a sense of reality here, folks. The one clear as day thing I remember flitting through my teenage mind was, I didn't ask if it was possible, I said to do it. In a whiny adult voice. I then say to her, "And I told you that I don't know." At this point, I walk away and select another book that catches my interest. Here's a side note, my mom would turn me loose in bookstores and go hunting for books of her own. This left me to freely hit up the children's section, the young adult section, and the adult sci-fi/fantasy sections to my heart's content. So sadly, I wasn't close by Mama Bear. Karen's following me saying, "Hello, excuse me, hello." She follows me down the aisle, yelling and banging her fist on the shelving. That's when I turn around and say, "Lady, I don't freaking work here, ask an employee." Hearing me say that, the woman goes ballistic on me, and I've lost all coherent memory of her screeching mouth words. I just have a memory of a manager who arrives at a dead run, probably thinking someone's getting murdered. And Karen screams, "This little bitch needs to learn how to treat paying customers better. I will not be disrespected by some minimum wage, snot-nosed brat. She was rude to me, and I won't stand for it. You fire her right now, or I'm calling corporate." So the manager looks at me, looks at Karen, and says, "Ma'am, this is not one of our employees. She's obviously way too young." And Karen would not have it. She threatened his job if he didn't fire me. So the manager then says to me, "You are fired." Hearing him say those words, disgust and loathing rolled through me. And I gave that manager a full dose of teenage attitude in a single look. The guy wouldn't even meet my eyes. The Karen then struts off like it was her birthday, and I got this tiny, weak-ass 10% coupon for the trouble. To this day, decades later, and having worked my time in the retail trenches, my hatred of this manager grows even stronger. I firmly believe that this was the Queen Karen, and all the other Karens that have spawned since are her descendants, created by spineless, pandering retail managers just like that manager. Yeah, so that manager definitely did a great job of reinforcing Karen's sense of self-entitlement that day, guys. The correct response to that should have been, "Ma'am, again, this person's not an employee. You need to leave the store because you're harassing them." But I don't know, guys. Like, is it better to give a raging Karen what they want, to de-escalate a situation quickly, or to defend the customer and kick the person out? So here's a little preface to my story. I'm a female security agent working in a small airport in Germany. My tasks entail checking visas and doing security searches in airplanes. I'm not a security officer. I don't physically fight people. I just deny them boarding or deem the plane unfit to fly. But as you might guess, people are always asking me for the other thing, like where's the toilet, do you guys have outlets to charge phones, etc, etc. Now I know it's not my job to help these passengers, but since I'm only needed on flights and for security issues, I usually do. I've also adapted this awful retail smile that I can't hide whenever a passenger asks me something or obviously needs my help. So whenever I do groceries, I wear headphones so people would leave me alone. With that said, on to the story. So after work this day, I went to go do the groceries at a very popular supermarket here in Germany. It was really crowded because in Germany, stores close down very, very early on Christmas. I was still in uniform, but I was wearing a long coat. You could only see my slacks, really. I put on my headphones and tried to finish my shopping as fast as possible. As I was deciding what kind of tomatoes I was gonna choose, some dude taps me on the shoulder. The guy looked Russian, but he didn't speak in an accent. So I turned around, take my headphones off and asked, "Yes?" in a slightly annoyed tone. The dude looks at me, apparently very pissed off, and said, "Are all the lamps gone already?" At that I said I don't know, that I'm sorry, but he should ask someone who works here because I don't. The guy then asked why I'm wearing slacks if I don't work here. I told him I just came from work, but still I don't work here, and that the people work here wear long black striped aprons with their names on it. The dude didn't say anything else anymore, and I thought that was the end of it, so I put my headphones on again and turned back to my business. As I was picking up the little cherry tomatoes, I suddenly felt two hairy arms around my waist. I screamed and turned my head. My headphones fell off, and the dude just picks me up and starts carrying me. The guy's walking me, not even caring that I demanded very loudly to let me back down again. People came running over after hearing my screeches, and an employee tried to reason with this dude, but the guy wouldn't listen. I asked him again to let me down, and when he wouldn't, I just elbowed him in the face. Now I don't think I hurt him, but he did put me down after that. The manager then brings me a glass of water and asked me if he should call the police. I didn't want him to stay longer than he already has to stay on Christmas Eve, so I told him it's okay, I don't need police interference. At that, the dude was escorted out. And I don't know if he was banned from the store or not, and I'm not gonna lie, that dude scared the crap out of me. I just didn't think someone would actually lift me up like that. And that was the last time I wear headphones while shopping. Great. Guys, I just want to say that I've read so many stories of customers hitting people, pushing them, grabbing them, but never ever has a raging customer ever picked up someone and tried carrying them away. Like Christmas Eve or not, definitely get the cops involved after that, because that crazy dude literally thinks he can manhandle random people to get his way. This person says, "I'm the average American girl, 5'1" and 120 pounds. If some random person picked me up and refused to put me down when I asked or demanded, I sure as crap would have called the cops afterwards. I don't understand why people don't call cops. They are here to help you. You're not inconveniencing them. Their job is to ensure safety, not just for you, but for everyone." And sure, OP's situation was diffused before they seriously got hurt, but not calling law enforcement just makes the a-hole think it's okay to behave like that. I have 7 nephews and nieces, and there's magical days in the month where I have to babysit all of them. 7 very little, very loud, obnoxious, and hard to control angels. So one day, both of my sisters left me with their kids, and as a sensible adult, I knew I needed help, and I enlisted my girlfriend of the time to help me. We sat at home for a while playing video games and whatnot when the children decided that it's time for food. Me, as a lousy cook, noted that it's time for restaurant and playground after. So as a large family, we go out to eat. The food is brought and whatnot, and suddenly I get hit with the smell. The smell of little angels' waste. Having no children and not being the smartest guy apparently, I forgot the stupid diapers. So I clean the little man and he rolls commando. And mental note, I need to buy diapers. So we finish eating and we go to a large supermarket. My girlfriend goes with the children while I sat in the car with the commando kid. In about 15 minutes, I get a call from my crying girlfriend asking me to come. So I take the baby and we walk to the store, and I see red marks around her neck. I asked her what happened, and she tells me a man came up to me and asked me to get him diapers, tampons, and some other groceries. I obviously refused and said I don't work here. Then the interaction went like this, from her words. Basically, he says to her, "Why do you lie, brat? You work here. You know you're lying. The workers wear that exact uniform," which is a black polo. My girlfriend tells him, "I have 6 kids with me. Do workers do that?" At that, the guy says, "I don't care. Did your mother not teach you to hold your legs together?" At that, my girlfriend, obviously mad, said, "Your parents raised such a hopeless moron. Go F yourself." To which at that point, the man grabs her throat and asked her to repeat it. Obviously, the children were panicking and they start crying, and so did my girlfriend. The guy then said he'll be right back and promptly went somewhere. I guess not enjoying the crying, and that's when my girlfriend called me. So I come into the store and was like, what the F? I mean, really, who the heck does that crap? You have a bad day maybe, but common sense is still a thing, so I'm seeing red. I mean, I was probably on the verge of wanting to commit a crime at that point, when lo and behold, the a-hole comes back with the manager, who's his friend apparently. The guy comes back screaming, her, why is she even at work with kids? What the F is her problem? The manager didn't manage an answer, and that's when I interrupted. I say to him, 1, she does not work here, and 2, you'd better apologize or I'll hurt you. Now, no one has to believe what happened, but if someone was in a situation where your loved ones are in danger, you could understand me. Quite obviously, the guy refused to apologize and asked me to try him. The guy was as big as me, so it turned out to be a pretty good fight. Needless to say, the man suffered a broken arm, nose, and ribs. The cops were called. And as he was the victim of my sudden out-of-the-blue aggression, as said by the manager, I got arrested. Long story short, I had to go to court and I faced a few charges. I walked away scot-free. After my girlfriend documented her bruises, the children gave their recount and the owner gave video proof of what happened. The guy recovered, but he was sued by my girlfriend for mental and physical damage, and they settled outside of court. The children were fine, but they were worried sick about me. You know what, some people do argue that what OP did wasn't the smartest thing to do, but honestly, I can understand why OP did that. Like, the idiot put his hands on a random stranger, not expecting anything of it, and boy did he learn that day, guys. I also love how OP's attitude was just like, oh yeah, I got arrested, had to go to court, and faced a few charges, but meh, it is what it is. So on this day, I'm helping a friend make a nice big pot of seafood chowder, using my mom's excellent recipe. I had come straight from work, so I'm wearing business casual clothing. A button-up plaid shirt with a collar, tan pants, rather than my usual off-work t-shirt and jeans. We realized that we're missing a crucial ingredient, lobster pate, and I groan because this can be hard to find, and I agree to go out to find it. The grocery store near where she lived didn't have it, so I drove to the one near where I live, where I knew they usually stocked it. I lucked out, and was able to get their last 2 cans. And since I was already in the store, I grabbed a cart to get a few other things. After filling my cart, I turned my back on my cart to get some cereal. As I turn back to my cart, I see a short-haired woman grabbing both cans of the pate out of my cart. I say to her, "What are you doing? Give that back." And the woman says, "I need it." I replied, "So do I," and grabbed the 2 cans out of her cart and held on to them. She was starting to get really mad, and I was about to offer one of the cans, since I didn't really need to, when she goes off. This is close to what she admitted as one long sentence. The woman says, "Who the F do you think you are? You can't do that. You violated and invaded my personal space. This is assault. I'm in a hurry, and you have none on the shelf. So give that back and get the F out of my way. Henry, help me." Now, the whole thing struck me by surprise, but that last bit confused me, until a smallish man comes around the corner quickly, who I assumed was Henry. The woman starts screaming, "This effing idiot attacked me and took my stuff. Keep him here while I find someone to get him fired." Now, I should mention at this point that I'm 6'4" and fairly bulky, compared to Henry's 5'6". Henry looked at me with a bit of uneasiness and resignation, and I finally get a chance to cut into his conversation with a blurt of, "I don't work here, guys, I'm just shopping just like you." The woman doesn't care though. Karen says, "BS, I've seen you here before," stomping off. At this point, I look at Henry, laugh, and tell him to try to have a nice life, and left with my pate for the checkouts. As my order's being scanned, I see a couple with someone who I assume is a store employee, as she's pointing at me from well across the store. I assume that she's harassing him, and she's animated and red-faced. Now, I'm not sure what she said to them, but Henry grabs her arm and starts tugging her out of the store. I paid for my stuff and went back to my friend. Some folk are really weird. Now, that is some crazy entitlement, guys, and I always cringe when I read about people taking stuff out of others' shopping carts or baskets because they need it more. And honestly, even if OP was an employee, it doesn't give her the right to just reach into their cart and take things without asking. So here is some background. I look very much like your stereotypical hillbilly/redneck. And yes, this includes the overly long facial hair, goatee in my case, overweight, and a lip full of chew. I have almost zero tolerance for stupidity, and due to my lower back being basically destroyed from a mixture of physical labor, sports, a car accident 15 years ago, and my considerable fatness now, I'm not in fighting shape at all, which means I really don't like people touching me, especially when they're being aggressive. So this is the story. It happened yesterday, but I was just too tired when it was all said and done to write it out. On my way home from work, I decided to stop at the local supermarket. The employees here wear black or khaki pants, a red or black polo with the name of the store embroidered onto the polo, or white dress shirts. I'm wearing dark blue bib overalls, a navy blue sweatshirt, a black ball cap, and tan combat boots. I have my cart, and I'm stopping in the drink aisle comparing different pre-made teas, part of trying to be healthier, because sadly, sweet tea is no longer an option for me. All of a sudden, I hear the notorious throat clear, and these exact words, "Excuse me." I glance over to see a middle-aged woman. She's well-dressed, and only because it becomes important later, she's African American. I pull myself against one of the aisles, and I mutter, "Sorry." The woman clears her throat again, and I look at her and start moving back across the aisle. I speak up a bit and say, "My fault on that, I should have asked where you were going." The woman, in a snarky, condescending tone, says, "Yes, you should have. Now why don't you stop staring at those bottles and help me?" At this point, I laugh and say, "Ma'am, I can barely help myself." The woman says, "What? Are you refusing to help me? I'm gonna go get your manager." At this point, the laughter stops, and I say, "Look, lady, leave me alone. I don't work here." She then points a finger millimeters from my face and says, "You listen here, a-hole. I'm a customer, and you can't talk to a customer like that." I respond, "Yeah, I might be an a-hole, but I still don't work here, lady." As I go to walk away, Sue grabs my shoulder and she pulls me around. Out of instinct, I wheel around, pushing Sue's arm away from me and forcefully shoving her back. This sends Sue into her cart, which she catches herself on before she regains her footing. And why didn't I leave, you asked? Well, I was taught to never turn your back on an angry opponent. So Sue comes marching up to me and she nabs her finger into my chest hard, and she screams, "You racist bastard! How dare you shove me!" At this point, I'm done, completely over it. And remember me mentioning that I don't do well with stupid, I let her have it. I spent my youth in various jobs that teach you how to yell from the diaphragm, commonly known as the drill instructor's yell. So I go full volume, spittle flying in her face, ballistic. I basically scream at her, "Racist, you effing C-word, you physically assaulted me because the gap between the two brain cells you possess were way too far apart for you to process that I do not work here. I highly suggest that you pull your head out of your ass before someone's had enough of you and fights back." So the woman, clearly having enough of a complete a-hole screaming a mere inch from her face, slaps me. One good slap deserves another. And at this point, enter the store manager, having just seen us exchange slaps. The woman spots the manager and starts shrieking that she's gonna sue the store if I'm not immediately fired for assaulting her and calling her racist things. The store manager stands there for a moment before walking off. In hindsight, obviously to call the police. Sue asked, "Where are you going? Get back here and fire this man." I say to her, "You stupid idiot, she can't fire me, but sure, keep asking people to do the impossible." Now, of course, I should have just kept my mouth shut because she charges at me with her purse, which in an attempt to block it, caused it to wrap around my arm. And the act of my pulling my arm free sent her purse flying. It's at this point she managed to scratch me, bad enough that I dripped blood from the wound. A few minutes later, the cops arrived, and of course, they put me in cuffs. The manager looks very distraught and unsure of what to say or do next, which is when I mention watching the security tapes. They watch the whole 6 minutes live, at which point the EMTs have arrived, and they're tending to my non-serious but very bloody injuries. As the cops finish the tape, they come over and uncuff me. Now at this point, I think the cops are about to tell us both to just leave and to stay away from each other on the way out, as this was mutual combat. Well, the simple act of uncuffing me sends Sue into hysterics, pulling at the cops, telling them to arrest me. The first officer calmly said, "Please ma'am, calm down." And the next thing I know, they call out taser, 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 and yup, she got tased. After all that, I had to explain that I understood my physical reaction might have seemed a little bit over the top, But being on blood thinners, any physical attack against me poses a great danger, and I was informed that in this case, the cops were going to try for aggravated assault instead of simple assault if I wanted to press charges. And you bet your ass I pressed charges. As for Sue, she was screaming about suing everyone and anyone as she was being loaded into the police vehicle. I'm sure she'll love the fact that I've already contacted my lawyer for a civil suit. All I can say is what a wild ride, guys. Like, that woman really messed around and found out that day. And hopefully she learns her lesson after facing those consequences, like maybe a hefty fine, some community service, and having to pay OP a decent amount of cash will wake her up. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. It's an r/entitled People episode, where Karens are going crazy, attacking people, and getting arrested for it. Your favorite. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.